Hi, students. Happy Monday. Hope you are all doing well. I wanted to first start off by saying I know I'm getting a lot of emails from some of you. I started to grade these outlines and I got through about 30 of them. And I realized that a lot of the same consistent mistakes were being made. And so I am going to be extending your outline deadline. That new deadline is going to be Wednesday at noon, in hopes that I can get those graded that afternoon and back to you. And then you are going to have an introduction and one body paragraph that is going to be due the following Sunday. And that date is going to be November 21st. So it will be the Sunday before you go into Thanksgiving break. I'm doing this for a couple reasons. One, I don't want any of you to feel like you didn't understand. Clearly, I needed to give some more instruction because it was the majority of you that were not understanding. So I apologize for that. I guess I did not make myself clear enough on the guidelines in the last lecture. So again, I'm going to be extending this for a couple days. And then the only rough draft portion you're going to have due is going to be the introduction and one body paragraph. Please be on the lookout. I will be giving a new updated schedule this week with a map out of what the rest of this semester is going to be looking like. I know we've tweaked and made some changes, and so I just want to be really clear and really upfront about what is to come and what is due. As far as the instructional component for the outline, many of you did not understand what a review is. And so I want to go back to the idea of a review. We review for many reasons. We do it when we go to restaurants. We do it when we see a movie. We do it when we take a class and we review a teacher. And the purpose is not necessarily to tell a narrative, okay? It's not to tell a narrative or our story or even what we learned. What we are making this review about is based on very specific criteria. So for example, if you were to go eat at a local restaurant, okay, let's say you were going to Sammy's, you are not going to tell the story of what all you and your friends did and what you talked about and who said what. You're not telling a narrative. You are going to give a review on Sammy's, the restaurant. And so perhaps you will talk about the service and how excellent the service was. Perhaps you will talk about the appetizer and how the fried pickles were made really crisply and they were not soggy. Perhaps you'll talk about the price point and how for the amount of food you got, the price was very fair. This is specific criteria. What I saw many of you doing in this review outline is you were simply summarizing. You were saying, this is what the man talked about. He talked about rejection. And he talked about ways that he was rejected. And that's not a review, that's a summary. The other issue that I was seeing is people were simply saying what they learned. I learned about rejection. I learned that I need to think of this. I learned that that's not a review either. What a review is essentially we're explaining to someone why they would spend their 15 minutes watching this particular TED Talk. Now, on that learning component, it is certainly okay to say part of the reason this TED Talk is so wonderful is because there is so much to glean personally from it. But that is one paragraph. That is one piece of criteria. Maybe the next thing you'll talk about is how engaging the speaker was. Maybe the next thing that you will talk about is how well they used statistics and how they used very specific data. Okay, but again, what I want you to see are these are specific pieces of criteria. It's not a summary, and it's not this self-reflective idea of, oh, this is what I learned and this is what I gleaned, and let me spend 4 paragraphs telling you everything I learned. That is not a review. One of my colleagues came up with this really wonderful handout that I'm going to be sharing with you today. But before we break down that handout, I want you to watch this particular TED Talk. This TED Talk, and I'm going to be linking it in your weekly lecture. I'm not going to let you watch it right now. It's 18 minutes long, and that's something that you can do on your time. But basically, in a nutshell, this is Chimamanda Adichie, and she's a writer and an author. She writes about coming of age. She writes about her immigration experience from Nigeria to America. She's a novelist. And so she talks about this concept of the danger of a single story. And essentially, what she is getting at in this TED Talk is the danger of assuming, okay? For example, the danger of assuming that all female teachers are the same person and teach for the same reasons and have the same passions. Or, for example, the danger of a single story of homeschool moms and why they choose to homeschool and what their purpose is. And what she capitalizes in this video is each person has a unique and individualized story. And if we're only listening to what we know, right, what we know, what we see, what we hear, what we consume in news or media, or even just our own biases, then we are in danger of giving somebody a single story. So again, I'm going to link this TED Talk, but when my colleague wrote this handout, this is essentially this is the TED Talk that she wrote it about. So which video are you reviewing? She uses the example piece with this Adichie TED Talk. And then she talks about step 2, determining your criteria. And guys, what criteria really is? Criteria, those are body paragraphs. Those are topics, okay? So she said, I've seen quite a few TED Talks, and some I like and want to watch again, and some I find incredibly boring. Here is my list of criteria for a quote unquote good TED Talk. Because remember, in a review, what we are trying to determine is this good or is this bad? We're not summarizing. We're not we are trying to explain this is good, this is bad, here is why. So some of the criteria she talks about are personal stories, okay? Did the speaker use a personal story to engage the audience? Is it an interesting topic? Did they talk about something that's relevant and that's meaningful? Humor, did they use humor? Why is that important? Why does that make this a good TED Talk? Were they an interesting and engaging person? Are they monotone? Do they use their hands? Do they have props? Is there a specific way that they engage that's unique? Did they use pictures or PowerPoints? Was it well organized? Did they have a unique perspective that you've never heard before? Did they make a great point, and did they use interesting data or facts to support it? Guys, these are all topics, okay? These could essentially be a topic sentence. Chimamanda Adichie used great humor in sharing her heart to engage her audience, okay? And then step 3, watch the video and take notes. So here are some examples and notes that she took as she watched the video. That she said it was a topic that interested her. The talk is about problems when only one story or one perspective dominates our understanding of the world, and it drowns out other points of view. As an English teacher, I enjoy learning about how the stories we tell or don't tell affect us. Another topic that she talks about are personal stories. The speaker starts with the talk with a personal anecdote about how she used to write stories as a child about white people who played in the snow and ate apples, even though she is from Nigeria and lived where it never snowed. She wrote those kinds of stories because those were the kinds of stories she read. She did not have any other models. Humor. The speaker makes jokes during the speech that keep the talk interesting. She tells one story about when she went to college in the United States. She says that her roommate asked if she could listen to what she called her tribal music and was consequently disappointed when she produced her Mariah Carey tape. And while it was a funny example, she uses this story to point out that her roommate had only been told a single story about Africa, that there were people who were dying of poverty and AIDS. Guys, these could be 3 paragraphs. This is a very vague thesis statement, but Chimamanda Adichie's TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, is worth a viewer's time to watch because it has interesting topics. She uses personal stories to connect with her audience, and she uses humor to convey a deeper message. Okay, those are 3 different points that explain why this is a video worth watching. This writer's not talking about what she necessarily learned. She's not talking about her reflections on it. She's not summarizing it, okay? She's not saying the speaker talked about this, and this, okay? We don't need a summary. If you are going to summarize it all, the summary can be in the background information of an introduction, but it is not the body paragraphs. This is a review where you are trying to sell why this was worth someone's 15 minutes of time. And then, guys, you're going to draft the paper. You're going to use that outline that you submitted to me to get you started. Those outlines, as of right now, I'm not going to look over any of them. A lot of you, I was just seeing so many consistent issues that I am going to do a total redo for the class. Those of you that have already submitted it, I want you to resubmit. And those of you that did not get a grade, I want you to resubmit because I am going to be looking over all of these again on Wednesday after noontime. Okay, that is your due date. In your introduction, summarize the TED Talk. Okay, be sure to end your introduction with a thesis that explains whether or not you liked it and why. And she uses a great example here. Chimamanda Adichie's TED Talk, The Danger of a Single Story, uses humor and a personal storytelling to make a powerful statement about the harmful effects when one perspective dominates our understanding of the world and drowns out other points of view. Guys, in the thesis, she didn't just give a summary. She explained why that TED Talk matters. She explained what tools and what concepts Adichie used to make it a valuable TED Talk. In your body paragraphs, explain your specific criteria and give detailed descriptions of the video. You can even use quotes from the video as well. A good way to pull quotes is to look at the video's transcript. And then in the conclusions, be sure to reiterate your final judgment. And then this is a sample body paragraph. Again, this is going back to Adichie's TED Talk. One of the things that keeps me engaged in a TED Talk is humor. While Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's TED Talk is not laugh out loud funny, she does sprinkle a few jokes throughout the talk to give a lighter tone to the topic and challenge the audience without making them too uncomfortable. Towards the beginning of the talk, about 4 minutes in, Adichie tells a story when she first went to college in the United States. She says that her roommate asked if she could listen to what is called my tribal music and was consequently very disappointed when I produced my tape of Mariah Carey. While it is a funny example of cultural misunderstanding, Adichie uses the story to point out that her roommate had been told of a single story of Africa, that people were dying of poverty and AIDS. The humor got the audience laughing and therefore made them even more receptive to her message about stereotyping and how those stereotypes prevent us from seeing other people as equals. While the message is important, the joke gets the audience listening and is one of the things that makes this TED Talk more impactful. Okay, the topic of this body paragraph was humor. Okay, we don't see Melanie DeCurligan. We do not see her summarizing. Okay, she has a topic. The topic is humor. Humor is why this video is worth watching. And then she uses places from the video to examine that humor. Okay. And then outline the body paragraph. Make sure you have a topic sentence that has a clear piece of criteria, not a summary. Give a sentence explaining how the TED Talk meets the criteria. There's an example from the TED Talk. She even states where it's at in the video. Explain how that example and quote is funny and what makes it interesting, and then give a concluding sentence that reiterates that topic, okay? Guys, I hope this gives you more direction and is a little bit more helpful. Again, a TED Talk review, there are two things it is not. It is not a summary, and it is not simply a reflection of what you learned, okay? You are identifying criteria and reasons as to why this video is worth watching for someone, okay? I would like you to watch this specific TED Talk so that you can go back through this handout and really understand where this criteria came from. After you do that, I want you to go back to the outline and I want you to give a very clear example in each piece of criteria, a piece of a point, okay, not a summary, and not just simply what you learned. And again, I want to reiterate, it's perfectly acceptable for one of your criteria to be that the message gleans something for everyone to learn, okay? That it shows this message that everyone can relate to. That is fine, but that is only one piece of criteria. That's only one body paragraph. That is not the entire essay. All right. Again, your outline is going to be due Wednesday at noon, and your introduction and your body paragraph. That's all I'm going to review for this particular essay. That will be due the following Sunday. If you have any questions or if you would like to reach out to me and schedule an appointment, please do not hesitate. I look forward to reworking this with you. This is just part of the writing process, guys. Sometimes we start things and we don't get it right and we have to go back to the drawing board. And that's part of growth mindset, and that's part of being a writer. I hope this was helpful. And again, reach out if you have any more questions or concerns.